Hi, everyone. This is the Cannabis News with Rick Thompson on 420 Post, and let's get started. Well, the big news of the week is Detroit finally announcing a program to license adult use cannabis businesses in the city. After 3 years of talks and multiple blown out deadlines, Councilman Tate delivered an ordinance to the City Council which guarantees legacy Detroiters are issued half of all licenses to sell or grow recreational cannabis in the city. But like in many other Michigan cities, the details of how that idea is executed will definitely land them in court. What Detroit did not need was a controversial program whose implementation will be placed on hold while existing businesses fight city lawyers. Now, eventually, the courts will decide which portions of the new Detroit ordinance are legal and which are not. But meanwhile, the rest of the state continues to move forward. Now, I'm happy to see city leaders in the D finally advancing a plan. It's my sincerest hope the logic behind the law is not lost in the lawsuits that it will inspire. Well, congratulations, Detroit, and to all of those who contributed to the process. Now, shooting yourself in the foot in the most beautiful place on earth. Now, that's what regulators in Hawaii did when they decided to utilize a cashless purchasing system for cannabis. Now, that's based on the number of out-of-staters visiting Hawaii who are not using the state's regulated distribution system. Hawaii requires visiting patients to obtain a special card from the state before they can use the regulated dispensaries there. Plus, visitors have to purchase a cashless, preloaded cannabis card they can use to make purchases. And that's a two-step system which drives away reciprocity and inhibits the success of the system. Now, here's some numbers. Hawaii projected they'd have 5,000 out-of-staters registering for and utilizing their dispensaries. In February, they had only a small portion of that number, about 718 of out-of-state residents. By July, that number fell to 95. That proves the point that people without direct knowledge of the cannabis industry cannot make ridiculous rules for consumers. The parallel pre-existing industry still works fine, and you can always expect people to take the easier path, especially when the harder path is more expensive. It's pretty easy to predict the failure of that program. Well, it's less than 1 week away from the general election here in the USA, and we always say you should vote early or vote on election day, but at least vote. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says if you want cannabis laws reformed, vote Democrat. Senator Schumer says if Democrats take over the U.S. Senate, cannabis legalization will be a priority. Schumer's cannabis reform bill would federally deschedule the plant, reinvest tax revenue into communities most impacted by the drug war, and it would fund efforts to expunge prior marijuana records. Schumer credits state-level activism for proving that these concepts are workable and that the public favors them. It's possible for Democrats to take control of the U.S. Senate, as several long-standing Republican senators are facing tough re-election campaigns in their home states. I will now articulate the Republican plan for decriminalizing cannabis on a federal level. That's it. Silence. When only one party's talking about cannabis law reform, knowing who to vote for seems really, really easy. Please vote on November 3rd unless you've already voted, in which case you should ignore President Trump's advice and not vote twice because it's a federal crime to do so. And speaking about Election Day, there are multiple cannabis ballot proposals up for consideration across America. New Jersey will vote on legalization, so will Arizonans. Mississippi residents will be voting on 2 proposals to legalize medical use of cannabis, one placed on the ballot by the people and one initiated by the legislature. Montana will try to legalize cannabis for adult use, but their neighbor, South Dakota, trying to initiate both a medical and an adult use program simultaneously. Both proposals will be voted on November 3rd. Looking beyond the cannabis industry, though, we have entheogenic plants on the ballot in Oregon and Washington, D.C. Longtime cannabis broadcaster John Russell Belville has a list of states with other interesting proposals up too, including eliminating cash bail in some states, and offering expungement in others. Marijuana Business Magazine identified 15 key U.S. Senate races which could flip from Republican to Democrat and usher in a new crop of more modern lawmakers who could take up issues like eliminating the 280E clause in the tax code, or the descheduling of cannabis, or allowing the USA to participate in the growing international market for hemp and cannabis, and possibly even removing archaic DEA regulations suppressing cannabis freedoms across the country. On election night, you can join Michigan Normal and myself as we broadcast the election results live and in real time via Zoom. The broadcast is free to join and will feature many of Michigan's most notable names in cannabis history. Check the normal Facebook page on Election Day for login information. And that does it for this edition of the Cannabis News with Rick Thompson on 420 Post.